Alright everybody, what's going on? Coach Grazione here. In today's video, we are answering the question, hey coach, should I reverse diet? Now this video is going to be for a lot of you because every single day I get an email coming from somebody who needs to reverse diet. Now I know that for a lot of you, the last thing you want to do is increase your calories, focus on building muscle, improving your health, because let's just keep it real, that just doesn't sound that appealing, it doesn't sound that attractive, right? Lean, dieting, all of that stuff, that sounds sexy, that sounds attractive, but in most cases, the reason why so many of you are in the positions that you're in is because you have spent so much time focusing on getting leaner and dieting and doing cardio. So in this video, what we're gonna talk to you guys today about is, should you reverse diet? And I hope that this video helps provide you guys some clarity in regards to whether or not you should take on that task of really being committed to a reverse diet. The number one thing that I want you guys to think about is ratios. Now what I mean by that is, how much time have you spent eating, thriving, and lifting in an environment that is conducive to you actually building new muscular tissue and optimizing your health and your hormones? On the other side of that, I want you to think about how many of you and how much time have you spent focusing on fat loss, focusing on dieting, focusing on cardio. And think about the ratio there. Think about 5 years from where you are right now. Think about 5 years back and then reflect on that and say, all right, have I spent more of that time in a caloric deficit, obviously dieting, doing cardio, maybe you're doing high reps, you're doing cleanses, you're doing different food plan approaches and challenges. And then on the other side, how many of you have actually fully committed to a recovery diet, a reverse diet, a maintenance phase? How many of you have done this and you've actually seen the fruits of your labor pay off? Now what I mean by the fruits of your labor is that a lot of you want the muscle. You want to build specific areas, whether it's your shoulders, you want to have a nice V-taper back, you want to build your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quads, and you're noticing that, hey, like the muscle is just not coming on as quickly as I would have thought. And that's because you're not feeding yourself enough to be able to create or put yourself in that environment. So should you reverse diet? Guys, if you are at any point in this ratio, if it's more than 50-50, you need to spend more time focusing on reverse dieting and just adding more calories in and feeding yourself so that you can optimize your health. The second thing is, did you just get done with a fat loss phase, or did you just get done with a competition preparation? If you answer yes to any one of those, I would probably, in most cases, most scenarios, highly recommend you go ahead and venture straight in to a reverse diet or a maintenance phase. And the reason that I say that is because you just wrapped up dieting. Okay, now however long you dieted, maybe it was 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, or 20 weeks, the fact is that you were in a caloric deficit. You were in a caloric deficit for a long enough period of time where you forced adaptation. And the only way to mitigate or reverse that adaptation is to reverse the diet that you just finished. So this would essentially entail just you slowly adding calories back in by anywhere from maybe 50 up to 100 calories per week, or up to every other week, until you find what your plateau is. Now we'll talk more about that later on. The third thing that I want to talk to you guys about is, if you just got done with a competition. I can't tell you how many times I see this happen. And the majority of the time, the reason that we see it happen the way that we do is because so many people plan to fail. Now what I mean by that is they are not planning to be victorious in their efforts for fat loss. They will worry about the fat loss phase, and they'll worry about, how am I going to lose the weight? The number one thing that I talk to a lot of my clients about, and guys, our clients have lost thousands of pounds in total over the last 10 years or so. We've worked with tons of people. The number one thing that we talk to them about is, we need to discuss when the diet's over before the diet even starts, so that you have an awareness around how we're going to transition out of the fat loss phase, so that you don't end up like the majority of all the other individuals who take on a fat loss phase, who plan to fail because they don't plan ahead. And they get done with the diet, they go right back to eating the way that they were eating, and then they gain all of that weight back. And initially, all they want to do is they just want to go right back into the fat loss phase. So let's talk about that. If you just got done with a fat loss phase, or you just got done with a competition prep, and maybe things after the show didn't go as according to plan as maybe you would have hoped they did, and maybe right now you're sitting 12, 15, or 20 pounds over your stage weight, and maybe your show was just a few months ago, and you're like, man, I should really cut right now because I saw my physique, the leanest it's ever been, the best it's ever been, and I felt great there. I was so motivated, and I could look at myself and I was happy with everything. You know, I was training at the gym and I saw the cuts in my shoulders and I just felt great. And now I don't feel that, and I feel like I'm back to square one and I'm depressed. And I don't take any of that lightly because I've been there. I understand it. But the last thing you should do when you're in that position is try to force another stress on your system, because your metabolism is already adapted and your metabolism has not had time to recover from those adaptations. So my best advice, if you are somebody who's post-fat loss or post-show and maybe you gain back a little bit more weight than you would have liked, my best advice there is just to hunker down and weather the storm. You're gonna have to go through that to be able to get to the other side. So I would strongly advise you guys to stay at least at maintenance or maybe a slight surplus for upwards of possibly 6 months or so before you ever even consider some form of cutting phase or a mini cut or something like that. Now, because you would have invested that amount of time, you would now be able to maybe take on a small mini cut to drop maybe 5 to 10 pounds and feel better about things, and then immediately go into a recovery phase after that, and then focus on your next training block so you can actually build the muscle that you ideally want. And the last thing, number 4, is going to be, are you somebody who has taken on a lot of these challenges, a 30-day challenge, a 60-day challenge, a 90-day challenge, a chronic caloric deficit? Maybe you're eating out of the colorful Tupperwares and you're trying the juice cleanses and you're drinking the celery juice and you're doing all of these various things. And when I think about all of these things, if I could put them all in a big bubble, all that they scream to me is caloric deficit. They just scream to me that you are underfeeding your metabolism from what it's actually capable of, and you should probably reverse diet. Now let's go ahead and now talk about what a reverse diet is, and we're going to keep this in layman's terms. We're going to keep this as simple as possible. Basically, a reverse diet is just a diet in the opposite direction. So you are reversing the diet. Now, if you think about dieting in the way that it's been kind of portrayed in society, it's like a downward trend of calories, right? So if you think about, maybe we start at 2,000 calories and we drop to 18, 16, 14, 12. Next thing you know, a lot of you have been down around 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories, and you're not seeing any progress. Well, guess what? This is a reverse diet. You're taking that 12 and you're bumping it right back up, trying to get yourself back up to your maintenance level. Now, everybody will have a genetic ceiling based off of a lot of various things, such as lean body mass, your metabolism, your genetics, how you've treated your body over the last 5-10 years. And the way that we know how to reach that ceiling is basically you should be able to maintain your body weight after the fat loss phase. When you're slowly increasing your calories, you should be able to maintain your body weight. Now, when you surpass your maintenance level, you will ideally start to try to kind of slowly gain weight. And I think that's a great place to pump the brakes and come back off of increasing calories, because now you can just maintain that. Or if we immediately bump calories up, maybe 300 to 400, the client can preserve that body weight pretty easily, staying around the same weight that they were at the end of their fat loss phase. With regards to reverse dieting or recovery dieting, the thing that you don't want to do is just increase your calories into oblivion and gain excessively more weight, making you feel worse about yourself. Ideally, you would increase your calories until you start to gain weight, and then you would stop. Okay, and just preserve that new lean body mass that you've worked so hard for, while also improving your metabolic rate, and then staying there for at least 6 to 9 months before you ever consider a fat loss phase. I hope this video was helpful to a lot of you guys who are in a position right now where you're wondering, what should I do? Should I go into a fat loss phase? Should I focus on a reverse diet? If you fall in any of those categories that I just talked about, meaning have you spent more time in a fat loss phase versus building muscle? Are you just coming out of a fat loss phase, or did you just end a competition prep? If you answer yes to any of those things, chances are you need to reverse diet. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next video.